Hi, it's nice to be with all of you again. And I'm really excited to tell you the story I'm going to tell you today. And I think you'll be excited when you hear the story yourself because it will help you to see how God can intervene even when circumstances look pretty bleak. So let's go ahead and start listening to our story today. And the story I'm going to tell you is about two young men. One of them's name is Ravi, and the other one's name is Sidhan. Now, Ravi and Sidhan, they are students at the lifestyle program. They learn to do health education work, and they are medical missionaries. And so they travel around and they visit villages and they do work there to take care of people. So I'm going to tell you how their time out in the field went this last year. They were excited to be able to get out in the field. I mean, when you're in the school all the time, sometimes you're just ready to go do some action. Well, that's how Ravi and Sidhan were. They had been in school for over a year and a half, and they were really ready to get out in the field, all on their own. And so they packed their bags carefully and they started on their journey. But when they got to the place where they were going to stay, oh, wow. I mean, it was really simple. There was barely running water, and the toilet was outside. It wasn't inside. They had to run outside around the house. It was very, very simple place to stay. But you know what? They didn't really care. They thought, we're here to share about Jesus. And so they unpacked their little things and put them away. And then they decided to go out and meet the people in the community. Well, they were hoping they'd be greeted with big smiles and lots of friendly welcome, but oh my, that's not what happened. You see, when they would go up to someone to greet them, you know what the people did? They would turn away and walk away. They didn't want to talk to Ravi and Sidhan. They thought, who are these strangers coming in our village? Why are they here? Ah, Ravi and Sidhan were very disappointed because they had been really excited about sharing and they knew how to help the people. I mean, just walking through the village, they saw how there were sick people there, and there were people who looked like they needed help. And Ravi and Sidhan had been trained medically to help people who are sick. And so they thought, if only the people would talk to us, if they would just let us talk with them, then we could help them. We could give them good advice about what to eat. We could give them good advice about what they should be doing, about exercising. We could share God's eight doctors with them. But you know what? The people didn't want to talk to them. Now, there was a small church in that town, and so Ravi and Sidhan, they went to the church and they met with the church leaders. But there was a problem actually because those people were fighting with each other. Like the elder didn't like somebody else, and the somebody else didn't like him, and so there was a little bit of a fight going on. Sometimes that happens, and that wasn't good because when Ravi and Sidhan came and wanted to get their help, they were fighting and didn't want to help anybody. So Ravi and Sidhan decided they had to do something about that. So they started having a Bible meeting in the church every night and every morning. And they invited the church members to come. And the first evening, there weren't many, but the next day, there were more. And the next day, there were more. And as word spread among the little church there, the members got kind of excited because Ravi and Sidhan were sharing how they should get along with each other and that Jesus was coming very soon and they needed to rededicate their lives to Jesus. Well, what do you think was happening with all the other village people, though? Did they want to hear what they had to say? Were they asking for their help? Oh, no. Nobody would even come near them. And when they tried to talk to the people on the street, people would turn and walk away. That is until one night. One night, in the middle of the night, around midnight, Ravi and Sidhan heard a knock. What was that? It was so loud. Ravi sat up and they shook their heads and they tried to wake up fast. And then the knock came again. And so they knew that somebody was knocking on their door, and they got up quickly and went to the door. They opened the door, and there in front of the door was a family. There was a mother who was holding a little boy in her arms, and there was the father who was obviously very drunk and not thinking very clearly. But the mother, she begged Ravi and Sidhan for help. "Can you help us? Please," she said. "Please. Our son isn't reacting to us. He's just laying here and there's we don't know what's wrong with him." Well, Ravi and Sidhan reached out and took the little boy, of course, quickly. And they looked at him, they checked him, but instead of responding to them, he just kind of laid there. And that, of course, really scared them. They took his temperature right away to see if he had a fever, but he didn't have a fever. And they didn't know what to do. What in the world would make this little boy so sick all of a sudden? He was breathing, but he was breathing very fast. And it seemed like his heart was really racing very fast. And so they were so concerned. They called their supervisor, who was back at the school, and they told him what was going on. And he said, "You've got to take that little boy immediately to the hospital." And they said, "But we can't. There's no cars here. We're in the village and we're far away from where there are cars, and there's no cars at night. There's no way we can take this little boy to the doctor." And the nearest doctor was several miles away. And it was dark and it was in the middle of the night. What were they supposed to do? Well, of course, you can imagine they prayed very hard. "Dear God, what shall we do? How can we help this little boy? He seems very sick and we know we need to take him to the doctor." Then another village person came and he offered to let Sitan and Ravi ride his bicycle to the doctor's. Well, they thought, "How is that going to help? We can't hold the little boy and drive the bike. That won't work. He's too heavy. And it won't work for us to get him to the hospital." But then they saw there was really no choice. They would have to take the bicycle. So they decided to go along together, riding on the bicycle. One of them sat on the seat and one of them sat on the handlebars. I don't know if you've ever seen kids maybe do that, where one sits on the seat and one on the handlebars. And the one with the on the handlebars had a flashlight, just a small flashlight. And they started off for the hospital, traveling down a treacherous, rutty dirt road to try to get out to where the doctor was so that they could ask him how to help this little boy. And so, after what seemed like an eternity, they finally saw the lights in the city. And as they got closer, they knew where the clinic was already. And so they were able to go there. Now, they weren't sure a doctor would be there because very often in the middle of the night in this country, there are no doctors there. But they were very blessed because as soon as they came in, the nurse told them the doctor was still there. The doctor came out and he spoke with them. They explained everything they could about what was happening with the little boy. And he said, I think I know what's wrong with him. Here, take this medicine and give it to him quickly, and give it to him tomorrow. And if he's feeling better, bring him in so we can look at him tomorrow. Well, Ravi and Sidham ran back outside. They got back on the bike and they started pedaling as quickly as they could to ride back to where the little boy was. Again, like what seemed an eternity, they finally reached back to their house. And they went inside, and the mother was there. The little boy was even worse. They quickly gave him the medicine. And then they prayed very earnestly with the mother and with the father and the little boy that God would heal him and help the medicine to work. Then they sent them home to sleep for the night. Well, Ravi and Sidhan, they did a lot of praying that night, asking Jesus, please, to be with the little boy. They realized that if this little boy would get well, it would be a door opener to the other villagers. And so they prayed and they waited. And finally, they went back to sleep. But they woke up very early, just at dawn. And the first thing they did was run to the little boy's house and ask how he was. And they were so happy to hear that he was doing much better. His heart rate had gone back to normal. He was breathing calmly and he had slept very well. But he was now awake and he seemed to be doing very well. Sidhan and Ravi were so relieved and so thankful. They were so thankful. You see, the people of the village saw how much Sidhan and Ravi were interested in helping them. They saw how they would be willing to even go in the middle of the night riding a bicycle into town to get the medicine for them. And so they realized that these young men actually were very nice young men. And they decided that they wanted to get to know them. And so all of a sudden, Ravi and Sid had more to do than you can imagine because the people had all kinds of problems, just like they had seen before, but now they were willing to come and talk to them about them. One auntie, she had high blood pressure. One auntie had diabetes. Another uncle had sore feet. Yes, one thing after the other. And Ravi and Sidhan gave them treatments. They talked with them, they prayed with them, and they shared about Jesus with them. And the church community was also really, really happy about what was happening because that was going to give them also a way to share Jesus with their village. You see, God sent Ravi and Sidhan to this village in order so that the people there could learn more about him. And that's what they did. They shaped that. And it was through this experience that Jesus was able to touch the hearts of the villagers way out in the jungle, far from any city. So I hope you enjoyed this story about what Jesus can do if we're willing to let him call us and lead us. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you again soon. God bless you. Until next time, bye bye.